I don't love that movie, but at least John Waters doesn't give me nightmares.
Drive the highway down the moon, past the billboard where you see me, see me, see me, ask the people for their king.
Welcome back to the Silver Nitrate Witches Movie Review Brew, the podcast where we talk about how we talk about movies, and we are your Silver Nitrate Witches. I'm Isabelle Lang. I'm a poet, academic editor, and tarot reader.
And I'm Laura Valenza. I'm co-film editor at the Brooklyn Rail, and I also recently gave a TED Talk on film criticism, if you want to check that out. And today, since we're going to the School of Rock, I am the witch that inspired Donovan's Season of the Witch.
Nice! That's such a good song.
It is. I really like the Lana Del Rey version.
I was just about to say, there's no bad version
No.
of that song. They're all great. I do also like the Lana Del Rey one. It's very ethereal. Yeah! Get out of my head. All right.
Okay. I think that says a lot about us that we could say the word ethereal at the same time.
Yeah. If you did not already know, we are definitely besties.
Who like to write. Yeah.
As Laura hinted at earlier, we are continuing our summer school grimoire and also continuing our theme of music in education by talking about School of Rock today. I am so excited to talk about this. When we were first coming up with ideas for movies about education, I was like, LOL, what if we did School of Rock? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, are you serious? So I am very happy about it today.
And then I was like, wait, was she serious?
Yes! So good. So just some background. School of Rock was released on October 3rd, 2003, a whole year before October 3rd would come to be known as Mean Girls Day. The budget for the film was $35 million. It grossed $131 million worldwide. It spent its opening weekend at number 1 and actually remained in the top 10 for the next 6 weeks, which I didn't know, but I'm actually utterly unsurprised about. It's really cute. I actually, because it came out in 2003, we would have been about 10. I 100% remember going to see this in theaters. I don't know who I went with, but I absolutely, for sure, remember, like, a group of friends of us deciding, like, we're going to go see School of Rock. And you do the thing where one mom brings you to the theater and you all sit in one row, and then the mom sits, like, 3 or 4 rows behind, so you're not, like, at the movies with your mom, but you're technically at the movies with your mom. So, good memory for that. And then more recently, in 2025, it was one of the films voted for the Reader's Choice edition of the New York Times list of the best 100 movies of the 21st century. Yeah. Some information about, like, the cast and the crew. It was written by... I have this as Mick White, and now I'm wondering if actually it should be Mike White. Hang on.
Yeah, because, like, Mike White is a thing.
Mike White is the Lotus guy, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah. Let me just be sure.
But, like, no offense if Mick is a real dude out there.
Well, I'm just suddenly like, I don't think I wrote his name anywhere else.
Oh my God.
It is Mike White. My bad.
Okay.
Okay. So.
That makes more sense.
So it was written by Mike White, who also stars in the film as Jack Black's roommate, the actual Ned Schneebly.
Wait, that's who Mike White is?
That's who Mike White is. You might also know him as being currently the creator, writer, and director of the HBO series White Lotus. I had no idea. I've not actually seen White Lotus. It's been on my list. I've wanted to watch it for a long time. But, like, picturing, like, Ned Schneebly writing White Lotus with what I do know about it just seems hilariously incongruent. So I am now even more excited to watch it.
The first season is good. The second season is pretty good. And then I kind of got bored because it's a little bit of, like, the same thing every season. Yeah.
So it was directed by Richard Linklater, who also directed comedies such as Bad News Bears and Dazed and Confused, but also critically acclaimed projects like the Before trilogy and the Boyhood movie. Something I found interesting was that he allegedly only agreed to direct the movie if they cast kids who actually played their own instruments, like semi-professionally, which they did. Each student in the band was either trained and experienced on their individual instrument, or they were like a kind of professional vocalist. So like anybody who was in the band and actually did a music thing was at their level of professional, like child star at that music thing, which I thought was really neat.
That is neat, and I feel like that makes a lot of sense because it kind of feels like a movie that it is a little hokey and it is a little cheesy, but it has like a surprising level of authenticity for the type of movie that it is. So that makes sense to me that like they actually took care with casting that it felt more genuine.
Yeah, I really like that too, and we'll talk a bit, I think, later about like some of the actual like performance aspects of it as well. We're going to get into the plot, and I think we'll do the plot first and then kind of talk about some initial thoughts. Does that sound good, or do you want to talk about some initial thoughts first?
No, I think plot sounds good.
All right, so the plot centers around Dewey Finn, who was described by one reviewer as, and this might be my favorite bit, John Belushi meets Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So,
I see that.
Exactly. So Dewey Finn is a career musician who gets kicked out of his band for too much stealing of the spotlight and is determined to get a new, even better crew with which to compete at the local Battle of the Bands and win $20,000 to shove in the face of his old band members and also pay the massive amount of rent he owes his roommate. Because he owes a bunch of money to his roommate, in a very desperate moment, he takes a substitute teacher position that was actually offered to his roommate, impersonating a 5th grade teacher at a prestigious prep school. He learns upon just like being at the school and wandering around that the kids in the class take music lessons. They can actually play really well, as we've just discussed. Those kids were actually trained and talented on those specific instruments.
But their music class is super boring.
Exactly. And he decides that this is the crew that will take him to the Battle of the Bands. So he tells the students it's this secret project that they will be graded for next semester, that they're getting an early start on to get them on board. He gives each of the kids a position either in the band or in the crew. They get to work over the course of about a month. They learn not only like how to correctly and like very well play their instruments, but also things like the history of music theory, the spirit of rock and roll, how to be successful in the music business, but also like, you know, the kind of social emotional learning you would expect, things like how to be confident, how to speak for themselves, how to just like let kids be kids. The night before the competition, everybody finds out what he's done. He gets exposed to like the kids and their parents. The next morning, however, the kids decide to take up what they have learned from Dewey and stick it to the man by competing anyway. So they pick him up on the way to the competition, give him a bit of his own kind of pep talky stuff from the last few weeks, and the band goes on to melt some faces. They do not win, unfortunately, but they do kick some ass.
They get an encore. And I would also say that a big part of what he's teaching them too is like individuality and like independence of thought, and in some ways kind of like the much goofier Dead Poets Society.
Yes!
Yeah.
I have some notes about that.
Complete opposite of Whiplash.
Yes, absolutely. And the movie actually ends with Dewey continuing on in music education and Ned also with their own after-school learning program called the School of Rock. So they continue doing sort of like melding of musical minds after all of the business. And I would say too that like Dewey and Ned also kind of learn a lot about themselves in the process of teaching the young people about themselves, because, you know, Dewey is so convinced that he's destined to be a rock star, and part of the movie is him coming face to face with the fact that he doesn't actually have that talent. But it turns out he is a really talented teacher. Yes! That's a big part of it, is his understanding that he maybe doesn't have the talent to become a big rock star, and that it has to be a democracy. He kind of takes himself down a peg from where he was in his previous band and recognizes that it has to be a shared effort and like a collaborative creation as opposed to a single show. Otherwise, it's not really sticking it to the man, because he's kind of being a stand-in for the man. Exactly! Oh my gosh, yes. So, Any other thoughts or feelings about the movie? What was your experience watching it over again? How are you feeling?
I would say,
you had seen it before, right?
Yeah, but like in the past couple years for the first time. So I'd say I kind of missed the window of like enjoying it as a kid. I do think it feels like a great kid movie. I think as an adult, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cute and pretty funny, but it's not really one of my favorites. I will say though, I do think like watching it again, like I kind of had remembered thinking it was cute and funny, but also like a little bit annoying. And so I was like not sure how I'd feel about watching it again. But it was kind of pleasantly surprised by like how much depth is in it. Like I do really like the themes that it's teaching. I do think it's a fun movie for an adult, but it's also really a nice movie for kids. And there's, for all that it's really goofy, and for all that Jack Black is his usual really goofy, I think part of my thing is that Jack Black's humor is not really my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what never really worked for me in it. But I will say he channels it in a way in this movie that also has some like surprisingly emotionally genuine moments. Like, you know, you can tell he really cares about his friend Ned. He comes to really care about these students and being a teacher. You know, he has like so many really nice tender moments, like the kid who's having a hard time with his dad and trying to like help him with that, and you know, the girl who's like too afraid to sing but she has an incredible voice, and he has a really good heart to heart with that, and like a really nice conversation about a healthy body image too, which I actually was like,
because I'm chubby but I'm sexy.
It's really funny but so cute.
A very pivotal moment in my childhood.
Yeah. Well, I love too that like it's just for anybody who hasn't seen it, like the context is that she's afraid to go on stage and sing because she thinks that she has this idea that a lead singer needs to be skinny and pretty and not, you know, and she feels very self-conscious about being overweight. And, you know, I feel like there's some subtext in here too about like she's an overweight Black girl. She feels like the odd one out at this school. And, you know, and Dewey ends up telling her about like Aretha Franklin and how he was like, she was a big lady and she got up there and rocked it, which was really cute. And then there's this very tender moment where he's like, you know who else has a little weight problem? Me. And he's like, because I love to eat.
Yes.
Which I also kind of love that he's like, you know what? Nobody gets to shame me because I like food and would rather be eating than, you know, working on my bod.
Yeah.
And I think it's just this really... Yeah. But I think it's just this really nice, tender, genuine moment between them. And I think the movie does have a lot of moments like that kind of, I think both times I've watched it sort of caught me by surprise, that like it achieved more than I thought the movie would achieve. And, you know, both times I watched it, I think I got to the end and I was like, no, that was really nice.
I actually have a little interesting bit of information about that. The actress who plays Tamika is the character's name, says that moment, that talk with Dewey about body positivity touched many people. She said in an interview, quote, "I'd get DMs from people who were around 9 or 10 when they saw it, the movie, saying like, that helped me so much, or they'll show it to their kids who were in the same situation. And now more than ever, with body positivity being a huge conversation, I'm so honored that I was part of that scene because I was a plus size kid and I'm a plus size woman now and I'm confident." And I remember reading that and thinking, like, I love that. I love that for her. I love that for everybody. I love that it is still... I love that that's, like, a conversation that was had in a movie in the early 2000s that wasn't, like, awful about bodies.
And I love, too, that he kind of talks about... I mean, like... It's interesting because she's like 10, so it's very that like on the cusp of starting to think about like sexuality and stuff, but probably not quite there yet. And so I do like there's a little bit of that conversation. Like it's not quite getting into like who will like me or that kind of concern, but he does have, you know, he points out that like Aretha Franklin's like, you know, and he that they're both super sexy when they're up there rocking it because Because being attractive has more to do with, like, confidence and knowing who you are and really, like, going out there and being the best version of yourself. It doesn't necessarily have to do with physical size all that much.
Something cute and related is the character who plays the keyboardist. I do not remember his name.
I don't either, but he was really cute. That story was cute.
They have he has a conversation where he approaches Dewey at the in the lunchroom. He's like, I don't think I should be in the band. I'm not cool enough. And they have a similar kind of talk where he's like, are you kidding me? You're the coolest of the cool because you're in the band. That's amazing. And they kind of build up his confidence. I think his nickname then becomes Mr. Cool because he gives nicknames to all of the students. Apparently Jack Black came up with all those nicknames himself on the fly. That was not a part of the script. And apparently that was also based on a conversation that kid had with the director. He approached the director at one point and was like, I don't think I'm cool enough to be in this movie. And the director was like, are you kidding me? You're so cool. And then it ended up in the film. And I think
You're
that's
in
really
the
sweet.
movie!
Yeah, you're in the movie! And you play the keyboard. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really sweet. So Tamika, she can actually, like, that was her actually singing.
Yes, all three of the vocalists, the female vocalists, that's all three of them. I don't know if that's something they've continued, but that's like... They entered, like, Hollywood as child performers as vocalists, which I think is really neat.
Cool. You know what else is fun about this movie? It was partially filmed in New Jersey.
I was gonna ask. Apparently, the school is called Horace Green, and it's supposed to be, I guess, based off of Horace Mann, which is in, I think, either New Jersey or upstate New York. I don't recall.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the school. I know that Horace Mann was, like, a big, like, education activist.
And
like,
now there's a prep school named after him somewhere in the north New England area.
Yeah, I think part of it was filmed in New Jersey. I think it was also partially filmed in Staten Island or something. I don't think it's entirely. It's kind of like one of those, like, hodgepodge
I see.
of different areas.
Dewey Finn strikes me as a person who would live on Staten Island, so I get that. Maybe he lives next to the vampires from What We Do in the Shadows.
I personally haven't spent that much time on Staten Island, so I wouldn't know.
All right, so what kind of, like, assumptions or understandings do you have about, like, the reception of the movie as it was released?
Well, I mean, I just remember when it came out feeling like it was pretty popular. I mean, I feel like it was kind of one of those things where everybody went to see it. Everybody seemed to think it was really fun. I definitely think it was also a little bit the butt of the joke sometimes, which it is a silly movie. Yeah. I don't think it was trying to take itself that seriously, but yeah.
And I honestly expected this movie to have not a lot, but definitely more than I found of kind of that sort of like, yeah, it's cute, but it's really just a kid movie. I expected it to have a little bit, not even a little bit, a lot more of people just kind of writing it off as like, it's whatever, it's a kid's movie, it's fine. Overwhelmingly, this movie is beloved by critics around the time it came out, which makes me so happy. A lot of people basically describe it as, I think we had kind of said something similar, like just a vehicle to let Jack Black talk about how much he loves music and just be himself and his own kid-like personality. It has 92% on Rotten Tomatoes and a thumbs up of approval from friend of the pod, Roger Ebert, which I was fascinated to find.
I am intrigued by that. But how did Siskel feel?
I didn't have anything from Siskel. I only had a written review from Roger. I may have to take back either in the Dead Poet Society episode or the Educating Rita episode, or maybe in both. I think I said something along the lines of like, I think Roger Ebert just doesn't like movies about education. I think I have to take that back because he gave School of Rock a 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Pretty good. Pretty nice.
Pretty nice. I do disagree with him still on some points. I don't think I'll ever fully agree with Roger Ebert, and I think I'm okay with that. He said, quote, "This is a cute premise, and you probably think you can guess more or less what the movie will be like. But you would be way wrong. because School of Rock is as serious as it can be about its comic subject and never condescends to its characters or its audience. The kids aren't turned into cloying little clones, but remain stubborn, uncertain, insecure, and kid-like, and Dewey Finn doesn't start as a disreputable character, then turn gooey. Jack Black remains true to his irascible character all the way through. He makes Dewey's personality not a plot gimmick, but a way of life. I would argue that I think Dewey does change and grow. I agree he doesn't start from like an awful person and turn kind of gooey, but I do think he grows through his work with the kids, as we kind of already talked about, as well as because he's able to like give up a little bit control and let them take the creative lead.
I do, though, think that it is true, though, that he stays true to that himself.
Yes.
Like, what motivated him in the beginning of the movie, the spirit of rock and roll, sticking it to the man, like, being true to your own weird individual self, is what motivates him at the end of the movie. I think he just learns to channel that motivation in more appropriate, responsible ways.
I agree. Yes, absolutely. One of my favorite moments is when they go to sign up or audition, and the drummer Kevin like goes to hang out with this other band guys in their van in the parking lot, and he goes like full built Ford tough mama bear on this kid and those guys, and they're like, he's 10 years old, how could you take him, and blah blah blah, and he just has this moment of like, oh my god, he's like really an adult, look at him, how cute.
Yeah, I also like that moment too, like, because it is such a moment of growth where he's like really being an adult. But I also like that it still also feels within his character, because those guys want to judge him and make fun of him for being, you know, the responsible teacher like that. And he still is kind of like, you know what? I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I know what needs to happen in this situation. That's all I care about.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
So I kind of think that Roger's appreciation, I'm calling him Roger now instead of Ebert because I feel like we're on a first name basis.
Oh.
And I think his appreciation for School of Rock over others like Dead Poets Society and Educating Rita is what he just said. The movie takes itself seriously in a way I think he feels those other two do not take themselves seriously about the literature.
See, that's funny because I would have thought Roger, like with Dead Poets, would have complained that there could have been a better use of music in this movie and a wider definition of rock and roll.
Thank you. I was going to say, I feel like it's kind of the same though, because like we don't experience a deep dive into rock history and music appreciation. We see it in like a little silly montage. So
yeah, and all the music that's in it. Yeah, and I'm not saying, again, like, I'm not saying the poetry in Dead Poets Society is bad poetry, and I'm not saying the music in School of Rock is bad music, but it's also this very superficial, like, the greatest hits of classic rock sort of, like, slice of the rock and roll pie. Where am I going with it?
The rock and roll pie. I love it. It's all it's big names that you could reasonably expect like 9 to 13-year-olds to recognize in a movie theater that are watching this.
Which is why like I like would forgive it for that. Like I'm not sure that I'm even saying that as like a real criticism of the movie, because I think that the movie was meant to have broad appeal, and probably to also broad appeal both to the parents who would have taken these kids to the movie theater and for the kids who are listening to also recognize too. And I think that that makes sense for the audience they were working for. It's not my favorite music, but that's okay.
The scene in the bar with the principal and Dewey singing to Stevie Nicks is 100% for the parents.
And I do love Stevie Nicks.
Of course.
Oh, and that reminds me, too. I mean, like, shout out to Joan Cusack. I forgot she was in this movie.
I always forget that Joan Cusack...
And Sarah Silverman.
Joan Cusack, Sarah Silverman, and Adam Pascal, I always forget are in this movie until there they are. And I'm like, oh, shit, that's right. And it's always so great. Ultimately, I think the last line of Roger's review wraps it up nicely. Here's a movie that proves you can make a family film that's alive and well acted and smart and perceptive and funny and that rocks.
Rock on.
Rock on. And
Roger.
and that is ultimately, I think, kind of the through line for the reviews of this film. Everybody kind of is on the same pact of like, it checks all the boxes, but it's a family movie and doesn't suck. And like, it's a family movie that I wouldn't be sick to watch a million times with my kids.
Great, so we did the tarot. That's a wrap.
No, of course not. Of course
Okay.
not. Okay. Before the film's release, there was an article by Nick Schlager in Slant magazine. I think he gets more directly at the thing that Roger sees as valuable in this movie over kind of like the trite attempts of doing this in educating Rita. I have an example here. He uses the word hoary, Hoary. I had to look it up. It means trite.
That's funny because I thought it meant like cold.
Okay, there we go. So that's why we're providing a definition
Because
first.
isn't that like the hoarfrost or something?
What the fuck is the hoarfrost?
I don't know. I may be making it up. I'll Google it.
Okay.
I'll Google it.
So,
and I'll report back.
Thank you. He writes...
Wait, no, I'm not making it up. It is a word. Okay, wait a minute. Hoarfrost, Hoar, frost, a grayish-white crystalline deposit of frozen water vapor formed in clear, still weather on vegetation, fences, etc. Yeah, because I think of, like, New England poetry from the 1800s where they talk about the hoary winter day.
Oh, no, that's not what it means here. In this instance, It means trite.
Great.
Because he's using it to describe the plot.
Okay.
So he writes, despite a hoary, trite, plot lurking around every corner, Linklater deftly navigates these potential narrative pitfalls by choosing to hint at, rather than hammer home, the film's lessons about life-affirming power of music. Overbearing parents never devolve into abusing monsters. Overweight children with performance anxiety never clam up on stage. Dewey, a notorious spotlight hog, never disappoints his kids by stealing the show. School of Rock tackles its familiar formula with a welcome mixture of reverence, intelligence, and cliche moderation. I do appreciate, he talks about what we talked about with Tamika and her being able to perform spectacularly, have her excellent solo in the finale. I like what he points out about the parents. My favorite moment, or one of my favorite moments, I have so many, is when the parents get into the Battle of Bands. First of all, I love when they're trying to force themselves in, and they're like, my kids are in there, and the guy's like, you gotta buy a ticket, and the principal goes, okay, maybe we should just buy tickets, and they all turn around to the ticket.
I don't know, like, yeah, okay, you're right.
And they, like, force their way to the front, and they're all outraged at first, and then the show starts, and they're like, oh my god, this is amazing, and then they're, like, jamming and shouting with the crowd, and it's great.
Yeah, you know what I think is actually another good theme of this movie? Forgiveness. I think there's a lot of, Dewey makes a lot of mistakes, but it's also about him being able to rectify that. And the parents are pretty judgy at first. There are some funny scenes where you're kind of like, yeah, I get where they're coming from. It doesn't sound good. But like, but they kind of are able to like come in and actually just ultimately be loving, supportive parents, which is nice. The principal has made mistakes, and she has a nice little subplot about getting to, rectify things too. I think there's a lot of like making mistakes and being able to make amends, and that's okay.
I agree with you. I wouldn't have pointed that out before, but I agree. I definitely think that's there. I have to absolutely, every time I have watched this movie since the first time I watched it in theaters, I have to fast forward through the parents' night thing.
It's real cringy.
It's so cringy. It's so, and you know what he's gonna say and how bad it's gonna sound. And I was, this time I was like, I have to watch it for the podcast, and then it came up to it, and I was like, no, I can't do it, and I fast forwarded through.
I have to do it for the podcast. That's funny. Yeah, no, it's too cringy. It's kind of funny, but it's too cringy.
Yeah, and anyway, this reviewer does point out a reasonable flaw. He writes, if the film occasionally resorts he writes about how the film occasionally resorts to unnecessary stereotyping for laughs, like, did we really need the very effeminate boy who wants to be the band's wardrobe designer? This, since then, has also been called out by the writer. Mike White, he's kind of distanced himself from the film a bit, due specifically to the director's treatment of the character Billy, really amping up the flamboyant personality. Mike White is bisexual himself. His father was a gay man. He has a lot of concerns about that kind of stereotyping of that character. So, like, that is a reasonable flaw and a problematic point.
Yeah, that was something that watching that,
Yeah.
like, as an adult so many years
yeah.
later, I was kind of like, this hasn't aged super well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then he also sings some of the similar praises that we were talking about, but like pointing out the similar kinds of things about like the familiarity and like the greatest hits kind of vibe of the bands. It has an admiration for the classic rock of the 60s and 70s, which is both heartfelt and contagious. In Linkletter's riotous comedy, the desire to crank out a thunderous power chord or burst forth with a bombastic drum solo resides in both the young and, in the case of Principal Mullins, a closet Stevie Nicks fan, the old. The climatic concert, featuring Dewey decked out in Angus Young-inspired shorts, thrillingly confirms his maxim that one great walk show can change the world. For those responsible for the joyous school of rock, we salute you.
Cute. I actually, like, really hated the shorts at the end of the movie. Like, I really... But I, like, also have a thing that I just don't think men should ever wear shorts.
Oh my god, I love it, because he's the only one at the end who's in, like, the proper school uniform attire. Everybody else is kind of like the jazzed out, blinged up, cut up, cool looking school uniforms, and he's in like the actual Horace Green outfit, and I think it's so hilarious. But he could have worn
pants.
No, he couldn't have. It wouldn't be the same.
Also, it looked like he was wearing, like, it looked like the only shorts they could find that kind of looked like prep school shorts but would fit a grown man were mailman shorts.
That's very possible. It's very possible. I don't blame
And again, I just feel that men in shorts shouldn't be allowed.
Oh my god.
Fight me in the comments, people.
I think the shorts are excellent, and they're so important for the whole vibe of the end. It's great, even when he's crowd surfing. Okay. To continue, I think, to connect this to some of the things we talked about with Dead Poets, Peter Hartlaub of the San Francisco Chronicle wrote, "Resting the success of a movie squarely on Jack Black's shoulders is a risky endeavor, kind of like putting a junkie in charge of your collection plate." Don't love the metaphor, but I think that's something that Robin Williams himself was talking about in some of these interviews when we looked at Dead Poet Society. If he was like, I was really worried I was going to have to carry the movie, but then it turned into kind of an ensemble. I don't think the film rests entirely on Blackjack. I think this is similar to more of an ensemble.
Jack Black.
What did I say?
He said Blackjack.
Fuck me. He's got that name.
That
you know?
would be a real gamble.
Oh, but anyway.
No, see, you know, though, it's funny because I think that I feel like it's actually the opposite of Dead Poets, because I feel like people making Dead Poets, I would think, would have been concerned that they would need Robin Williams to carry the whole movie, and that it worked out really well that actually, like, the boys were talented enough and well enough written characters that it could be an ensemble cast. Whereas I do understand being concerned about Jack Black possibly having to carry an entire movie, and I do think part of what makes the movie better than I thought it would be is that the children and Joan Cusack and even, like, the weird dynamics with the roommate and his girlfriend are kind of really funny and endearing and everything, and I think that helps balance out the cringier aspects of Jack Black. The man in shorts aspects of Jack Black.
I like how you describe it as sort of like in the opposite of Dead Poet Society, because this reviewer goes on to describe the plot as a similar kind of way. Says that, like, you know, in the world of films about, like, good teachers not giving up on their classrooms, in School of Rock, screwed up Black berates the otherwise lovely children, calling them names, stealing their food, and discouraging the learning process until they convince the slacking teacher that they're worth his time. So it's a little bit in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to convince the kids that this is worthwhile, they're like, can we please be graded on something? Although I do love in the very beginning when they're talking about the chart with the stars and the demerits, that he totally just rips the clip chart off the wall because fuck clip charts.
Yeah, I used to do a summer camp that would do it stars and black holes.
Oh.
And I actually, in hindsight, was like, that is like so humiliating. And it would be a contest too, where like at the end of the summer, they would give out presents for it and stuff. And I thought it was a real like, I don't know, not a great system. Also, the other thing too is the black holes never discouraged people from like doing whatever. You know, it's not like, I mean, everybody wanted to be at this summer camp. It's not like anybody was like really terribly behaved, but if they weren't going to show up on time, they weren't going to show up on time. The black holes never changed it. So
I don't care how you dress it up. A clip chart is a cruel and unusual form of punishment for a child.
yeah, we actually didn't have a chart at the summer camp, but we had, it was a theater camp. So we had like the binders with our scripts in it, and we were supposed to put them on the front of our binders.
But still, it's a very public
Yeah.
thing. Oh my god, I hate it. I hate it.
So you walk around carrying either your stars or your black holes.
So dumb. So I appreciate him being like, fuck this, and ripping it off the wall.
I do too. That was a really satisfying moment. But can we also talk about how adorable Summer is? I love her.
I love baby Miranda Cosgrove. She's so precious.
It's so funny because this time watching it, I'm like, why does she look so familiar? And then it's like, oh my god, it's iCarly.
It's iCarly! Yes, no, I love her. She's great. Apparently, like, I love how she researches and figures out what a groupie is.
Yes. And she's like, ew, no.
Yeah, and then when she becomes the manager, she, like, locks it down. I love the scene where you see her reading a book about, like, the music business, and something I was reading that's apparently, like, a very standard text in that industry. It gets updated every couple of years. And so, of course, she would, like, know that that's the book to read, and she would actually read it and, like, dog ear and little tags all over it. And that she's still the manager at the end of the movie.
Yeah, doesn't she actually, like, shake hands with some grown-ups and it's basically like, I represent the band or whatever?
I think she gives them, like, a business card even. It's so great.
Yeah. But can we also, it's such good casting, too, because I don't know if she was actually younger than the other kids, but she's so much smaller than everybody else. But, like, such a big know-it-all and so bossy. And I just think that makes it so adorable. So cute.
God, I love her.
She's really cute.
And her little beret, too.
Yes.
Precious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, this one review by David Edelstein from Slate talks about, like, highlights how the movie, like, despite leaning into some, like, kind of formulaic elements, like, you know, some of the ones that assumptions we've already discussed of, like, the inspiring educator movie, and, like, the nerds who become cool movie manages something really heartfelt and entertaining, even though they lead into those aspects. One of my favorite things about this article is the tagline. What stars black and white and rocks all over? I know.
What?
Oh my god. Okay.
That's funny.
Let's see. He writes, the new comedy School of Rock is uncut bliss. It had me buzzing, bopping up and down in my seat, practically pogoing out of the theater playing air guitar. I scribbled superlatives in my notebook. I heard myself tell a colleague, dude, that movie rocked. I wonder now that the ecstasy has dissipated a bit, but only a bit, how formulaic, farce heartwarmer about a fake teacher and a bunch of 10-year-olds could be such a mystical experience, one of the biggest highs I've had at the movies in years. I specifically like the air guitar bit because before we hopped on the recording, I was talking about how the song from the movie has been playing nonstop in my apartment, and I've been, like, waking up to it and, like, air guitaring in the morning.
Yeah, that is funny. I think something that's really interesting is that he had initially questioned like how something so formulaic could end up being good.
Yeah.
And I will say, even though I do feel like I kind of went into the movie being like, I feel like this can't be that great, but then was kind of pleasantly surprised by how endearing it is. I do, though, think that, like, people are really harsh to formulaic movies. And while there are, like, I don't know, like, I can't stand, like, the Marvel movies that feel very formulaic to me. But I also think that there's a difference between a formula that feels generic and corporate and a formula that feels classic and timeless. And I think that this formula is much like classic rock. It just doesn't really get old. Like, you can always do it in a new, fun way.
Yeah, I like that. I think he comes to that same conclusion. I like what he writes here. You've seen this Battle of the Band climax 1,000 times. But there are rare formula pictures that seem to be arriving at the formula from the inside with a kind of naive hopefulness that seems as much a product of movie love as it is a desire to reach a mass audience. For all its slickness, School of Rock has a let's put on a show quality that touches you in the most direct way a movie can. And then he also kind of highlights some of the elements that we were talking about at the beginning, referring to the plot, about like the sort of genuineness of it. Is that a word? I don't know.
Yeah.
He says part of what's so touching... Authenticity. I like that better. Mm-hmm. He says part of what's so touching about School of Rock is that it's clearly from the work of shy people. It's a rock and roll anthem for the timid. It's about kids and grown-ups who need to rev themselves up to transcend their own self-doubt. Rock, or dreaming about rock, is how they get out of themselves and connect with the cosmic oneness.
I love that description.
I know, and it seemed to really hit on the moments we were talking about earlier that we loved, like with the keyboardist and with Tamika and everything like that. There was another...
Well, and even the principal and Ned, too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's another moment that was in the original screenplay that did not make it to the movie, but feels like this sort of... it reminds me a bit of... Not formulaic exactly, but like hearkening to like music history cliches, reminded me a bit of Whiplash. There was a part in the original screenplay where Freddie Jones, the drummer, would forget his drumsticks to class, and Jack Black would say, "Would Keith Moon forget his sticks? No, he might get drunk and pass out on the floor, but he would never forget his sticks." And that felt like a very Charlie Parker wouldn't give up, Keith Moon would never forget his drumsticks moment. So what I want to move on to next is an article that came out 2 years ago by Ed Potton of The Times celebrating the 20th anniversary of the film. And I had to reckon with that for a long moment.
Wait, the 20th or the 15th?
The 20th. It came out in 2003, and 2 years ago it celebrated its 20th anniversary.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm having whoo!
You could be okay,
I'm
Belle.
gonna be okay. There's a great meme sound that was going around for a while from the Owl House, where this one character finds like this VHS of like what's supposed to be like a Power Rangers movie. And she's like, "No, this is great. It's only 20 years old. I remember seeing this in theaters." And I just had that moment with this, and I was like, "Oh, Jesus." I'm gonna be okay.
I'm younger than Belle.
By 1 month. Not even like a month and 8 days. If we're doing the math. So
that's more than 1 month.
Oh. Anyway. Let's see. Okay, so this article writes, "The film that launched its lead to stardom holds up well and surpasses the standard feel-good fare," which I think is kind of what we've been hinting at. Like, it's that genuine, authentic feel-goodedness, but like cranked up a bit and like not cheesy.
Feel-goodedness?
Yeah, feel-goodedness.
Okay.
It's a word. Look it up.
Okay.
It's
like hoarfrost.
Like, exactly. I can't believe that was actually a word.
I told you I've seen it in like 19th century New England poetry where they would need a word for something like hoarfrost.
Right, which I understand, but what I'm confused at is how you were connecting hoarfrost to cults. Like, why did those two things go together in your brain?
I didn't connect them to cults.
You said...
I said cold. No, I said cold.
Cold.
Cold, like burr.
Cold. You and your silly little New
pretty
Jersey
sure...
accent sometime, I definitely thought you said cult.
I don't have a New Jersey accent.
Say any word that ends with an ing.
An ing?
Yeah.
Like... Swimming.
No, that's not how you say it. You say swimming? Learning? Writing? I don't know if that's a New Jersey thing or just the way that Laura talks, but I swear I thought you said... Like, that's the point! I swear I thought you said cult. Anyway.
Okay, by the way, the first definition of grayish, or of hoary, is grayish white. As in, hoary cobwebs.
I'm sure, but that didn't make sense with plot. Like, let's go back up. Despite a grayish white plot lurking around every corner.
Well, or maybe it's a grave plot that's covered in hoarfrost. Swimming. Sounds good to me.
Où est la poussine? Splish splash. Oh my god. Okay. Focus. Alright. So, the article continues. 20 years have passed since Richard Linklater's Classroom Knees Up. I don't know what that means.
I was going to say, wait, what?
I have no idea. Although it may not seem...
What accent is that?
Although it may not seem like it, given that the spin-off TV series ran until 2018, and Andrew Lloyd Webber's stage version is still playing in theaters from Madrid to Tokyo. I knew that there
was a TV version?
I did not know that until I was looking into this. I knew there was a Broadway show. I remember that being a big deal when it came out. I remember really wanting to see it. But there was a TV show that ran for like 3 seasons. That was like basically the same plot, but like none of the same people.
But no Jack Black.
No Jack Black. I'm amazed it managed 3 seasons without Jack Black, honestly. I'm sure it was excellent, but it's one of those... It's like we were talking about with Dead Poets Society. Like, it's you don't think about it without immediately thinking of Robin Williams. You don't think about School of Rock without immediately thinking about Jack Black.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like School of Rock was written for Jack Black.
Right? I can't picture literally anybody else in that role.
No. Because you have to have the right mix of, like, obnoxious, but somehow still endearing.
Right, and also...
And that's really hard to do.
Rock and roll, which is Jack Black through and through.
Yeah.
Have you seen a bit of a... hard left. Have you seen these interviews with him and Jason Momoa for whatever movie that they're in that's come out recently? With their sweaters.
Those two are in a movie together.
They're in a movie together. It's some kind of action comedy. And Jason Momoa learned how to crochet on the set of this movie to, like, keep his hands busy. And he crocheted cardigans, like matching cardigans for himself and Jack Black, and they've been wearing them on the tour of this, like, this press tour.
Dude, that's so cute.
I know!
Also, is Jason Momoa the action and Jack Black is the comedy?
One should never assume, but probably.
Okay.
To take us way back, speaking of Jack Black, which was the transition I was going to use like 5 minutes ago. Speaking of Jack Black, this article goes on to say...
Which we weren't.
It goes on to say, Jack Black gives a career-defining performance as a failed guitarist who fraudulently lands a job as a teacher and resolves to turn his drippy pupils into a rock and roll juggernaut. Oh, I guess that wasn't about Jack Black. That was just the plot. I'm sorry. The film...
That was gross. Was that gross? I zoned out for a minute there. What was that description?
Jack Black gives a career-defining performance as a failed guitarist who fraudulently lands a job as a teacher and resolves to turn his drippy pupils into a rock and roll juggernaut.
Oh, you know what grossed me out? I zoned out for a second and I heard pupils as in your eyeball instead of students.
Drippy pupils, no.
And I had a very gross image all of a sudden. I was like, wait, what?
Oh my god, no. This review goes on to talk about like how it was a bit out of the ordinary for the director. The film was a blip of conventionality for Linklater, who is known for art house hits such as Boyhood, and the writer Mike White, who gave his dark instincts free rein when he created The White Lotus. Yet, there are subversive details that elevate it beyond standard feel-good fare. Notably, Black's insistence on treating his young characters like battle-hardened veterans, and his straight-faced announcement to their parents that I have been touched by your kids, and I'm pretty sure I've touched them. This is the part we mentioned before that I always have to fast forward. It gets so cringy. Yuck.
Yeah, it's too embarrassing. However, when Joe Pesci basically gives the same monologue of misunderstandings in My Cousin Vinny, that's hysterical.
Okay, before we hopped on, I mentioned I have been watching a lot of my DVDs lately, which I don't usually do because my internet has been out. One of the ones I watched was My Cousin Vinny because, of course, if I'm ever like, I feel like watching a movie, I'm going to pull out my DVDs. My Cousin Vinny is always in the top 3 choices. And I remember every time I watched that movie that I was alarmingly old before I understood the innuendo that was being made in that conversation. I was like 19 or 20 or something, and I just, one time I watched it and I went, oh my God. And I just cackled unbelievably. And now every time I watch it, I'm like, I cannot believe how much I didn't get this. Because I think I watched the movie for the first time probably when I was like 6 or 7, so of course I didn't get it, but then I just kept not getting it.
That's really funny. I love it too when there's a movie that you haven't seen since you were a child, and then you watch it as an adult, and all of a sudden all the innuendo makes sense, and you're like, holy crap, how did I not realize how dirty this movie was?
Oh my God, yes! So good.
But anyway, I'm going to go see My Cousin Vinny at the Italian Cinema Club next week.
Oh, I'm so jealous! Oh, I hope you have an excellent time. Oh, God, that's going to be so good.
So speaking of Jack Black,
okay, so anyway, yeah, just ultimately I really expected there to be so much more reviewing that's like, it's cute for a kids movie, but like, you know, not your vibe for adults. But I was surprisingly wrong, and I'm so glad to have heard that. Everybody seems to keep, you know, vibing with it as this like feel good but not over the top cheesy moment, and I'm really happy with it. Some of my IMDb user review faves, if you're ready. The first one that seems very fitting: Jack Black gets to be himself. Pretty accurate.
Yep. Sums it up. Maybe it's not intelligent, but it's funny and it rocks. Fair.
I
would say that's pretty accurate.
And then my favorite, better than I thought.
Also agree,
yeah. It's so interesting. I guess I didn't realize that, because I think we must have watched it one time when we were living together in Reno, because this is the kind of movie that every time I notice it's available on a streaming service, I'm like, shut up, School of Rock is on Netflix, I know what I'm doing this weekend. Like, it's always an exciting thing. And it's really interesting that you have only seen it as an adult.
I'm sorry, guys. Belle has more exciting weekends than that, just so you know.
I really don't. But thank you for lying for
I'm trying to help you out here, Belle.
It's fine.
Okay, fine.
You know what I'm going to do this weekend? Well, right now I'm recording this, and then tomorrow I'm going to knit all day. And that's my weekend. And I am so excited.
Well, I have super sexy plans. I'm going to my book club where we only read New York Review of Book classics.
I do. I feel like your book club is kind of sexy in the way that you find things sexy, because it's like intelligent sexy, isn't it?
It's sapio-sexy.
Sapio-sexy. Like, I get that vibe. And you meet at, like, where do you meet? I mean, you don't have to say, obviously. I'll, like, cut it out if you say exactly. But, like, what's the vibe at the place you meet at?
Usually, like, bars or coffee shops.
Exactly. So it's like, cool, sexy New York book club.
Reading the New York Review of Books.
There you go. Exactly. Those are sexy plans.
We're doing a French surrealist novel tomorrow.
This month for my book club, we are reading something called Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone.
Belle and I like doing book club comparisons each month.
I loved this book so much. I brought it
yeah?
when I was getting my tattoo done because I knew I was going to have to sit still for like 3 hours. And I read like over half of it, and then I came back home and I like finished the rest of it that day. It was really fun. So I liked it a lot.
Nice. I'll have to try it.
Okay, so should we do some tarot? Tarot. I have only given one for Dewey. I felt like as I was watching, I have notes of like, oh my god, for this kid it could be this, and for this kid it could be that, for this kid it could be that, and I'm like, I don't have enough bandwidth to label the entire band. But what I think is really appropriate for Dewey, I've given him 2 actually, because I think the way he changes throughout the film gives him a change of cards. I think it would be really easy to just give him the Fool, of course. But that's a little on the nose, right? So I would say at the start of the movie, he is the 9 of Wands. So he's determined to make things work alone. He's kind of like the diva persona, but like, you know, rock and roll. They don't have a word for that, do they?
I don't know. I mean, I think diva is Italian, so do you think Devo is a word in Italian?
Devo just makes me think of the band Devo.
Oh, yeah. But it would be spelled differently if it is a real word.
Yes. The point is, he wants control of everything. He wants full creative control. He doesn't want to be in a band. He wants to be a performer and like the band to back him up. The whole song he writes at the beginning that they actually go along with, and we're almost going to play the whole thing of like, how can you kick me out of the band? Because the band is mine.
Do we know who created that song?
I have no idea. I hope it was Jack Black. I would believe that because he's very good at just making stuff up on the spot.
Breaking news.
Okay.
According to Google Translate, which is never ever wrong, Devo is the male version of diva.
Okay. See, I wasn't concerned so much about the female male. I just feel like diva is very much associated with like pop performers. And so I was wondering if there was some kind of alternative for like a different genre of music.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because, yeah, I mean, I will say I don't know that in Italian, diva and divo have the same connotations of drama that they do in English.
Right, because don't they refer to like an actual person, like an actual role in opera? Or
it says that it just means a star.
Yeah.
In Italian. But I feel like when you use Italian in English, you're going for a flair of drama that I don't know actually exists in the original Italian.
Love it.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there should be a rock and roll version of diva. I mean, I feel like you could say diva.
We could say, maybe we call it the Dewey.
Yeah. Maybe.
So yeah, he's the 9 of Wands at the start. If you look at that card, it's very much like a person. They look really like suspicious. They're looking around them. They're very alone. They're kind of trying to like hold on to their space and protect themselves. And I think we definitely get that vibe from him at the beginning whenever he gets kicked out. But by the end of the movie, I have assigned to him the 10 of Wands. So he's just kind of clicked over and completed.
He moved up.
He's completed that cycle of growth. You know, I would argue if we looked back at the entirety of his life, we could see him go from like the Ace of Wands all the way through. But by the end of the movie, he's the 10. He's not only willing to do the work that needs to be done, he has accepted that he cannot do it alone, and he's heading towards the people he knows he can ask for help. Whenever, you know, even at the very end when they're showing like the actual School of Rock, it's not something he's doing completely by himself. He's teaching like the advanced rock class, and then Dewey's teaching the little kids on the guitars. I actually read a funny behind the scenes bit that when Ned is teaching them, he's teaching them like, okay, and that's a C chord. All right, now you try to play one. Now you, and now you. And after everyone, he goes, good job. But none of them actually play a C chord. which seems really cute. But yeah, he's willing to do things together with other people. In the whole moment at the end, he gives everybody, or almost everybody, a chance to kind of like shine and have their own solo moment. Another cute thing I read was that the bassist in that moment was also supposed to have a moment where she got a little bass solo, but the credits ended too early and it had to be cut. And so then at a 10-year anniversary of the movie later, they gave her like this epic long moment to do this insane bass solo, which I think is really sweet.
Nice.
But yeah, I think he's gone through like a full cycle of growth by the end of this movie, and ends on the 10 of Wands.
I like that.
Yeah.
And a cycle of growth is very appropriate for a movie about education.
Yes.
Because it should not be about indoctrination. It should be about growing and being individual and sticking it to the man.
Yeah. So I
The orange man.
oh my god. I wanted to oh god. Okay, I wanted to save some time at the end of this one to kind of, just because now we've had 2 movies in a row about music and education. And one of the things I think you said at the beginning is it's like he's like the very opposite of the kind of education in Whiplash. I thought it would be to talk about that for a little bit. So what are your thoughts on comparing Dewey to what's his name?
Fletcher.
I knew it started with an F.
Played by J.K. Simmons.
Yeah. Tell me some things.
What they are the complete opposite in that J.K. Simmons is very about the institution and the technical skill, and
He is the man.
he isn't the man, because I do feel like
Well, because Jazz is definitely not the man.
Jazz is not the man, and I do think that he has serious respect for Jazz, but it's a very different... Yeah, it's interesting. Like, obviously rock and roll doesn't exist without jazz, and like,
I like the way you phrase that. That's so true.
Yeah, if we think about those two forms of music, they are actually, I think I'm convincing myself these movies have more in common than you would think.
I love it.
In some ways, they are both about people who are sort of operating more on the fringes of society, and they're choosing a non-traditional path, and they're choosing a path that goes against the ways in which capitalism traditionally rewards people when they think about their careers in terms of becoming like doctors and lawyers and everything.
Teachers.
And that they're actually, they're more about, doing what you're passionate. They're both really about doing what you're passionate about and building your own life path in a lot of ways with really different methods.
Yes, absolutely. I like that.
I would say Whiplash does embody the spirit of jazz, and School of Rock embodies the spirit of classic rock. And I don't think that either of those things at the end of the day are about conformity or capitalism. I think they are both about sticking it to the man. And even though Dewey and Fletcher have their moments where they play the role of the man, I do think in their own very different ways, they are both sticking it to him too.
Okay.
Step off.
I would love to also kind of compare the climatic, like, musical numbers at the ends of these films. So, like, comparing, like, the Whiplash moment. Hang on, pause for the cat to walk around on the desk. Interesting comparisons I noticed is the swap of songs, like the music swap, and how differently it is obviously like portrayed and affect the characters, because there's the swap in Whiplash. He thinks they're going to play Whiplash and they play something else, and then in School of Rock they're going to sing Dewey's song and then they swap and sing Zach's song at the end, and it is a much, like, it's the same kind of like big climactic music scene, but it's so different in like one is about leaning into community and togetherness, and the other one is about just fucking somebody over. And
though it does kind of become about how together
it does, but
they make something beautiful.
They do, but only after it gets fucked up at the beginning. But then I saw that moment after after, where he comes back onto the stage in Whiplash, let me clarify, when he comes back and starts playing again and starts leading the band and doing the I'll cue you in stuff, and they do make that beautiful moment together, reminded me of in School of Rock, when they, as we said before, spoiler alert, they do not win the Battle of the Bands. Dewey's old band wins the contest, and the crowd is appalled. And they start chanting for School of Rock, and they get to come out and do an encore. Those two moments both felt, I think, very similar to me.
Yeah, because I feel like they're also both about how sometimes it's not really about winning in a traditional sense.
Yes.
Like, they didn't actually win Battle of the Bands, but they... I'm trying to think of a way of not saying this super cheesy, but, like, they won something so much bigger than the Battle of the Bands. And I think kind of a similar thing happens in Whiplash where, you know, it's supposed to be a moment where the main character fails spectacularly and he kind of comes back and seizes his moment in a very unexpected way. So there's sort of like, it's sort of about... Which, I mean, I also think it's just kind of good narrative writing, because if, like, somebody just, like, does it and it works out and they win, it's, like, too easy and not interesting to watch. But I think it's also kind of speaks to the themes of these movies, too, that they are kind of both about grit and individuality and independence and, you know, really going for it and believing in yourself as an artist as being the thing that's really... Like, being able to hold on to that is what really winning is.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. My final question before we move on to final thoughts is, how much do you love Spider? Because I gotta say, he's my favorite character in this whole goddamn movie.
Wait, which one was Spider?
Spider is the one who wears the teeny, teeny, tiny leather shirt and plays the guitar in the background and dances like this the whole time.
I loved it, especially when he is, like, into Joan Cusack.
Yes!
And doesn't he say something like, I had a crush on her? Or, like, he's like, really into that she's a principal.
He's like, yeah, that's cool. That's so cool. That's so cool. And she's like, it is cool. Thank you. And he goes, yeah, you're so hot. What? And she goes, what? Sorry? What?
I think that might be my favorite scene, actually, in the entire movie. Yes.
Oh, my God. Oh God, it's just so good, and I'm like, you can't make it to that movie without a little bit of Spider appreciation. This is also the second film we talked about that has a character named Spider, so there we go. She done him wrong, Spider. Very different vibe.
You're making me nervous.
Spider.
No, that's an accent.
Okay. So final thoughts, if any. Listeners, we may have broken Laura.
What are your final thoughts, Belle?
That song, even though I will officially pull it out of my, like, current favorite list on Spotify, it is gonna still be stuck in my head for weeks, as it always is when I rewatch this movie. As is my renewed appreciation for Jack Black. He is an icon, and we don't deserve him.
Fair. Mm-hmm. Only people of a certain age will get this, but Freebird!
All right.
All right. Rock on. We'll rock out.
Rock on. Those who are about to listen to podcasts, we salute you. You can find your Silver Nitrate Witches on various online platforms at LJ Valenza and at Bellang303. Thanks to Fine Motor for the use of their songs Highway Moon and Movie. You can check out more about the band at finemotormusic.com. Thanks for listening. Stay witchy, keep watching movies, and rock on.